Hey everybody, hope y'all are doing well. My name's Dave Shrine, and me and Steve Edwards are here again for another week of talking mules and donkey. Excited about that, Steve?
Oh man, I hate to mention this, but I have to have a horse on the place right now.
So nobody hold it against him. Horses on the property, but you're not abandoning the mule or the donkey.
Oh no! It just makes me really, really happy that I'm with mules and donkeys. Really makes me happy. It's a friend's horse, nice kind of a horse, but them little tiny ears is hard to get used to.
Yeah, that's how I know. Now I haven't been grown up around equine. I haven't grown up around horses. I don't really know a whole lot, but if I have a question as to whether or not something is a horse, I look at the ears, and that's how I'm able to tell, right?
Yeah. That's
so
right.
I've got a whole bunch of different questions lined up. Some of them have come through Facebook. Some of them have come through YouTube. Some of them have come through email. So we've got a whole bunch of questions. But before we get started, I just want to say, if you're watching, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to use the comment section just to let us know where you're watching from. And of course, if you have any questions, we've got a few questions that have come in over the last week, but we try to make sure to prioritize questions that come in live. So if you have anything that you want to know, anything that maybe from a previous stream you want a little bit more clarification on, go ahead and put that in the comment section. Otherwise, Carla says hello, and Janet says she's watching from Albertville, Alabama. So we got some Midwest there. We got some South. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in. Otherwise, we're going to get started. Before we go into the question portion, getting started, I just want to remind people that this Saturday and Sunday is Trail Riding with Confidence. It's a 2-day clinic out at Queen Valley Mule Ranch. Have you had some folks sign up for that, Steve?
Oh yes, yeah. We actually still have 2 openings for the participants, and as many spectators who wants to come can come. It is going to cool off. Today it was almost 80 here today. Over the weekend it's supposed to cool down to the 60s, and maybe even a little bit of light rain, but that's no problem because at my ranch we've got 100 by 100 in cover, so we'll be under the roof the whole time. So for those fair weather mule riders, we can fix you right up.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that during the summertime, whenever we have something going on, I like that big cover in there. It's real nice.
Yes.
We've got Tracy Foley. Hello from the frozen north of Lake Campo, Pennsylvania. We've got David Scholl saying hello from Australia.
David, yes.
International again.
Yeah, David has actually got some different DVDs and things like this. And I'm going to be going to Queensland, Australia. And I was going to go last year, but my hip went bad. And then I'm going this year, but it's not going to be till later on in the year. I've got some other places I have to go called Hawaii, where I've got some clients there at Malachi for the mule ride. Now that's really a cool ride. They ride down from up on the top in the mountains into an old leopard colony, and these mules have been doing that for several years. Let me make sure this isn't my...
I know that Steve has a phone call that he's coming. Is this the call?
No, it's not. It happens to be my wife, and she'll figure it out.
I know how that goes. My wife will call me sometimes too, or when I'm working from home, she'll knock on the door, and if I don't answer, she's like, "Oh, okay, I know what's going on in there."
Yeah. So this ride is down to an old leopard colony. It's in Hawaii, and it's really a great ride. They've been doing it for 30 years almost. Anyway, they ride all of my saddles there, and it's going to be a great ride. I'm looking forward to it. We'll video it and let people see what it's like to be in Molokai, Hawaii, going down. And then the other place that I've got to go, Dave, darn it, is Kauai, Hawaii. And that's where my last mule I had, Tumbleweed, he now belongs to one of my apprentices, Matthew Goddard there. So I've got to suffer through that. I got to do that in May.
Someone has to do it. It may as well be you.
Prayers. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. So I'm thinking around maybe November, something like that, I'll go to Australia, to Queensland, and talk funny.
I think you got one. Didn't something come in? Was it Alaska that you're going to?
Yeah, I'm going to Kodiak, Alaska.
Yeah.
At the end of August.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun too. You got another clinic up there. Of course, Bishop Mule Days is going to be in April. We've got Minnesota coming up.
No, in May.
Bishop Mule Days is May. Minnesota is April. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I got them confused. But this weekend is Trail Riding with Confidence. So if you guys, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, want to come down, a couple spots left to be a participant. And we're going to do another Trail Riding with Confidence coming up in the later months. So if you can't make it this time, there will be another one. We've got a couple more folks tuning on. We've got Kevin Albright from Indiana. We've got Carla Howe from Loxley, Alabama. And let's hop into the question. The first question that I have, this one came in from Sharon, and I believe that this was from an email. She says, my mule kicks up at me when I get too close to his private parts. She's like, I like everything about my mule, but he kicks up out at me if I get too close to his penis. He enjoys all the brushing under the belly, and every other part of his body is fine, but the ears pin back and come up if I get 2 to 3 inches of his private parts. I brush very slowly so he enjoys himself, but I need to fix this part. There has to be some desensitizing I can do so he can enjoy this instead of being angry. So what do you have to say there?
Yeah, it is a tough place because it's really easy to get kicked right in there. And that's something we have to do with our John mules, our male mules, is it's imperative that it's called a sheath, that their sheath is clean. And you do that with a glove with Vaseline on it, put it up in there, rub around. Unfortunately, there's a couple ways of doing it. Number one, I use my come-along hitch on, and when I take my come-along hitch on, I'll put a broom handle, put a glove on the end of it, and then I'll take the broom handle with the glove, or a piece of PVC actually is the thing I like to use now that I think about it, and I'll use that glove, and I'll tape the glove to the PVC, and then I'll take and hold on to the come-along hitch, and I'll rub that glove. As I'm rubbing it, he pins his ears, and this is imperative. You got to catch him when he's pinning his ears, because if he kicks at you, it's too late. So as you rub around to the middle of his body and rub around, get closer and closer to his penis. Well, when he pins his ears, give him a couple short bumps. He basically says, you're not touching there, but when you bump him, you're saying, oh yeah, I paid for that, and I want you to do it. Now, if we don't keep that sheath clean, we got a good chance of a lot of infection. We got a chance of even cancerous situations, Dave. And I know that this is kind of a delicate situation, especially today with all this he touched me situation. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's sexual harassment. Well, don't worry about it. The mule's not going to file a case. But he will kick you, okay? So use the come-along hitch. This is, folks, this is where a come-along hitch is imperative. Because a lot of people say, oh, my mule is sweet, I can lead him around. Well, that's fine until you got the pressure on. Now, here's the pressure. You need to clean that sheath. And don't use soap and water, folks. The nice thing about the Vaseline on the glove is that Vaseline goes in there and lubricates things. And then when you come back in there the next day, it'll clean really easy. But I know people have used soap and water on it and even betadine and end up having some major problems. And I won't go into all that. But that's what to do. Always start small. Use the come-along hitch with the glove back in the very beginning. And then once you can use that leather glove and kind of touch around, you know, his penis area and this sort of thing, and he's quiet, he doesn't pin his ears, then think about having your hand go in there. And if the worst comes to worst, you may end up having to tie a foot up by using what's called a Scotch hobble, and that is rope around the neck. That could be something we can do one of these days, Dave, is a video of how to, Yeah. It's imperative that gets done. These geldings can have some problems, guys, if we don't get that done. Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one that we haven't ever, in all the years that I've worked with you, I don't think I've had you talk about that, at least not in a informative setting like that. So I hope that gives Sharon what she's looking for. I hope that provides a little bit of direction. And of course, if you ever meet up with Steve at any of the clinics that he's at, or you try to make it out to Queen Valley Mule Ranch, I know that that's something that be able to demonstrate there live and in person. So the next question that I have comes in from CA from YouTube. So CA writes, it would be good to tell us how to meet the need of the saddlebags, where to put them, how to carry all the things that we need. People with a heart want to treat the mule in a healthy way, so we hear you say safeguard the kidneys. Great, but where do we address putting the saddlebag? I do want to treat the mule kindly and properly. So great question there about where am I supposed to put the saddlebag so it doesn't get the kidneys?
Yeah. And Dave, just like some people I've been talking to the past couple of days, is what they got to understand is, like a guy I talked to today, he says, I can do all this stuff and the mule's fine. He's doing, and it's just a yearly. Well, he's doing everything now. But then one day when the mule kicks at you, you're going to say, well, what happened? Well, you missed a stage in the training, or you're using an improper saddle, and that's another story. So let's go back to this thing. I have kennel bags, and Dave, we need to get these on the website so people can see them. But I got some kennel bags that were made by Mountain Gear, and Erica's awesome at doing this stuff. And I got some not kennel bags, but pommel bags, and they go up in the front. The downside is, Dave, people put too much in these bags over top of the kidneys. And these saddlebags flop around, and the mule can end up what's called acetaria. What you can do is you can do a pommel bag only. It's just a small bag, and it's right up on top, and you're not going to put much more, get this, in your sandwich and a water bottle in there. About maybe 2-quart water bottle. And then as that gets used, it'll be less and less weight. The big problem is the continual pounding with the bags on both sides, okay? I usually use, I've also got, besides Eric's pommel bag and his kennel bag, I used to take an old pant leg, tie off one end, and then put it on the back with my burrito and my water, and then tie it off with my tie strings, and that's it. And there ain't but maybe 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds at max there. But it's not continually pounding, And even if you tie them up, you're still going to have the bouncing. There you are.
So I put a link to Mountain. Let's see, it's mountainridgegear.com. I put a link to that in the comments section. You guys can check it out, see what we got, and yeah, Steve, we'll work on getting that up on the website. So hopefully that gives CA. They've been watching a lot of YouTube, so we've added more and more videos. I believe. What did I just add? I just added a video from, I think it's a few weeks ago, maybe last week's video, talking about mouth sores on your mule, and it was caused by foxtail. And so I just added that one up there. We added one about the Canyon Ridge Pathfinder saddle. Folks have been asking questions about that. We've got some other instructional videos. So CA's been watching there. CA, I hope you get this, and hope that helps you out. So the next question that comes in, and I got to say that Kevin has a follow-up to the previous question. He says, how often do you recommend cleaning the sheath out?
Twice a year. I usually will do it in the spring, and then I'll do it sometime midwinter. So about every 6 months, I'll get it done. And every time you take a rubber glove and just cover it in Vaseline, and the first day just put it up in there and let her, run your hand all around, they'll get to where they actually relax with it, and it's really nice if their penis will come out, but never try to pull on it. But I'm going to tell you that Vaseline seems to feel good. They relax, and that's the problem with the gelding, is they do not extend their penis enough And so therefore we get all that dry skin around there, and it ends up being a problem. So if you've got one that kind of is habitual and sometimes have what we call a little beam, and that is what happens is there's kind of a natural occurrence when some dirt gets in there and it's not getting out. And so the animal's natural way of kind of putting like a fiber around it helps it out. But the problem is that can also be a problem that can cause a problem within the sheath. So at least twice a year, and it depends on how much how dirty your gelding ends up getting.
Yeah, there you go. So this is a question that comes in quite a bit. And Dustin Maddox, thanks for hanging out. Dustin, good to have you here. This is one that comes in a lot. And he says, hey, we bought a 2-year-old, never been broke. She's doing good. We have your rope halter and come along hitch. He wants to know if you sell used saddles. And I know that you don't sell used saddles. I know they can be had here or there. Do you have anything else that you want to add along to that?
You know, it's one of the great things that I'm proud to say about, with my saddles is they hold their resale value. A lot of people think they're going to save up to 50%. And don't get me wrong, you can always find a deal. But when you go online and try to find one of my saddles, let's use the word used, I kind of like to use the word experienced, then they usually hold their resale value upwards of 75 to 80%. Yes, you want to use the right saddle. As I was telling a man today that was putting a pack saddle on, and we're going to be seeing some of these pictures in my articles, Dave, showing these pack saddles. But I said, look what you're doing to this mule. Look at the scapula and this sort of thing. He said, well, I just figured if I put anything on there. No, don't just put anything on there. You're building a foundation. And most of all, you're building a trust. 6 months later, when that mule kicks you, he's been telling you all this time that you got pressure points in the wrong place. It's usually in behind the scapula. So use the correct saddle in there in the very beginning. And the downside is, Dave, I would love to tell everybody, just go ahead and go find a mule saddle. But here's the problem. And I've run into this so much. And some of these videos, I don't want to put anybody's name out there. But when people finally call me up and say they got all these white hairs and they got all this problem, I say, well, look here. This send me a picture of the saddle. They send me a picture of the saddle. And it's putting pressure in the wrong places, and there you are. So as far as a used saddle, you just got to watch Craigslist, watch eBay. The last one I saw on eBay was a cowboy. It was almost 6 years old. The cowboy sells for $1,090, and at that time the eBay bidding was somewhere around $800 on it. So,
yeah,
and I think the guy finally ended up buying it for around $900. A little bit of a savings, but it's a 5-year-old saddle.
Yeah, I did a quick search on eBay, and I can't find anything currently right now. So it is one of those things where we don't see them pop up very often. We get a lot of questions about that coming in, and we just don't see them pop up very often. But I know one thing, and I want you to talk about this because at the last clinic we did, you tended to spend more time on it, getting that saddle set up for you. I
Yes.
know that one of the young girls there, she had a saddle that had not yet been set up in terms of spraying down with the water and then twisting with the taps and the broom handles or whatever it is. Talk a little bit about when you get that brand new saddle that has not been worn in. How do you get that thing set up? Because you emphasize that it's important that it gets set up to you so you don't wind up having the knee problems.
Yeah, exactly. Knees and lower backs, a lot of people have that problem. And also consider if the saddle's too big, you're going to be sitting too far back in the saddle. Too small, you're going to be sitting front forward in the saddle. So it's imperative for the happiness of the mule that you're setting in the right saddle. So let's go on. When you have leather, you have to wet leather to shape it to what you want. And once you shape it, it's going to stay that shape, then you oil it. Now, there lies the problem. So if you buy a saddle that's used, that somebody has already set up for themselves and they've already oiled it, it's going to be extremely difficult to wet that saddle down because of all that oil in it and then shape it to you. And therein lies the problem. So many people. I had one lady contact me that she found one of my cowboy saddles, and she was doing really good with it, but she says, I kept having knee problems. And I said, send me a picture. And I seen it, and I says, well, you don't have your stirrups turned out enough. She says, well, I keep trying to turn them, but I can't do it. It's really oiled. I said, there's the problem, Once it's oiled, it's hard to shape. And you got to shape it to yourself. You notice in my videos, when you buy the saddle, I take a spray bottle with a tablespoon of soap in it, and I wet the back half of the fenders. I wet underneath the jockey. We turn it. We put a stick in it, but we don't stop there. Next day when we ride, we wet it. We soak it like an old wet newspaper, and then we go ride. We do that for up to 5 or 6 months before we oil it. And if you'll do that, you'll have a lot more comfortable ride. I'm not worried about the comfort for the mule because we got that squared away, but the comfort for you, it's imperative you set the saddle up to fit you. And we've got some videos on there, don't we, Dave, about setting up the video and people setting in it and this sort of thing?
Yeah, we have a few, and I've got more in the works. I'll tell you what, Steve, between these videos, between the times that we've come out and spent time on the ranch, between the Skype videos, we just have an unending supply of instructional videos coming out, and it's fantastic because folks are getting their individual questions answered, but everything's getting put up on YouTube. So if you're not on YouTube, if you haven't found Steve on YouTube yet, you ought to go there, check it out. I will put a link during the next question when Steve's answering. I'll put a link to Steve's channel. Just click that button. It'll open up every single video that Steve has up there, and it's the best stuff that's on there. There's other stuff you'll find, but one of the things that, just me being a young techie type of guy, because that's kind of what I am. I'm a computer guy. I'm a city slicker. I really appreciate the emphasis that Steve has on good video, good audio, and good composition. So that's something that we're always shooting for. So Dustin, it gives you a little bit of insight into the saddle. Everything that Steve has is new, but you can find some used stuff out there. Just be aware that when you do go used, you or anybody else, when you do go used, there's a few things that you want to give some special attention to make sure you don't have those back problems and you don't have those knee problems, because they are very real, and you just need to know that going into it. So he said, Steve, I think you're going to want to give Dustin a call. He says, none of your saddles fit my mule. We have a 5-year-old. We have 5 mules. So I think, Dustin, you're going to have to hop on the phone with Steve. Steve, would you be up for a call with Dustin?
Oh, yeah. Of course, after we get this done, that'll be fine. But here's the biggest problem. When people say they try to fit it and it rocks, they put their hand on the horn, put the hand on the saddle, back of the cantle, and they roll it back and forth. They say it rocks. Well, yes, it does. It rocks because it's rocking on the 6th and 7th rib on that mule. And if you're using my saddle, if you find one, it's imperative you get the video so that you can see the video shows you how to properly set it up. Number one, you don't sit on that horn, and you don't sit on that cantle. And if you watch the videos how I've got it set up, put your hand only in the seat. When you put your hand only in the seat, you'll see the front of the saddle come up. That's what you want to do. That takes the pressure off the 6th and 7th rib. It takes the pressure off the fat pocket, if you do it correctly. The majority of people who say, I can't get it to fit, have not followed the instructions on my video, or they try to make it rock. And it's not the saddle's fault. It's the 6th and 7th rib, the fat pocket on the mule. That's a high spot there, and that saddle is going to rock on it. No doubt in my mind.
Okay, so I think Dustin might have been doing some frantic texting or frantic typing. He wrote in, he meant to say our saddles. None of our saddles fit hers.
Oh.
He hasn't tried yours, so thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Dustin. He's probably like, no, that's not what I meant to say. Type it back in. That's happened to plenty of us. Thanks, Dustin. Good sport. Yeah. But it's something that needs to be talked about anyways, because that is something that does come in. So let's keep moving right along here. Terry Lupine. I'm horrible with last names, but just chimed in and says, hi, Steve. So, hi, Terry. Good to have you here.
Terry's got some of my products out there. I remember her name. It's a unique name. Lupine. She'll tell us what's right.
Yeah, tell us what's right, Terry, so we know from here on out. The next question that I have, this one came in. Never had this asked before. Not sure what you're going to say, but excited to hear it. This is from Jejosi from YouTube. Says, just a random question. My mule is only 2, so I do not ride him yet. Can your saddles be made without a horn? I'm not a cowboy, obviously. So I have no idea why somebody would want a saddle without a horn. I know that you don't have any that are made without a horn, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to it.
Well, we can custom make it. The thing is, all of our trees are made with a metal horn encapsulated into the body of the tree. It's not like most of your trees that have 3 screws holding the horn on. Mine is encapsulated. So we have to cut it off. We can do that. The downside is, and I've found this out, is from people who have run into it, is they tried to sell that saddle. Maybe the mule went bad or who knows what happened. And it's a lot more difficult to sell a saddle without a horn. Now, a lot of people kind of get different thoughts, and they says they've had their shirt get hung up on it, especially ladies. They've had their shirt get hung up on it, and it pops out and this sort of thing. And my thing is try to set the saddle correctly. I have never had my shirt get caught in a horn, and I've been in a lot of jackpots. But some people just feel they don't need the horn. I tell you that if you're a trail rider, there's going to be a time where you may have to lead another animal, or you may have to drag in some firewood or something like that. And the horn is also nice for a lot of people to hold on to when they're going up a hill,
Okay. So that's good to know. I mean, I've never heard that request before, and I figured that you had something to say about it. So I'll make sure that let's see, it was Jejosi from YouTube. I'll make sure that Jejosi gets that answer. The next question that I have is coming in from CA again on YouTube, and asks, I've seen mules ridden bareback. Is this harmful to them? Does it cause pain or injury to the mule? Thank you, and please appreciate your informative reply.
Yeah, the thing is the animal's back was never meant for us to sit on it, any way, shape, or form. And can we sit in that kind of sweet spot right in behind the shoulder? Yes, we can do that. But remember, you've got a spine that looks like this. And when you sit on it, it's going to look like this. So it's really important that the bars on the saddle, that's why you don't want to ride a treeless saddle. The bars on the saddle evenly distribute the weight across the animal's back. That's the purpose of the bars. If you're riding a treeless saddle, you're basically riding bareback. You're cinching it down right where the mule don't need to have cinching, right at the 6th and 7th rib, and you're not tightening the back cinch, so therefore you've got all that pressure. So can you ride bareback? Yes, you can. The downside is if we took and x-rayed that mule's back over a length of time, we'd probably see that we're starting to get arthritis set in because we didn't have the proper bar to safely distribute the weight across the animal's back.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And I'll tell you what, the whole visualization of supporting that weight across the animal's back instead of the 2 points on the scapula and then on the kidneys, distributing that evenly and allowing it to conform to the mule's back or the donkey's back, that helped me understand so much, because of course I could hear you say it over and over and over again, but it wasn't until I physically saw you take the bar and lay it up there, which I'd seen you do a whole bunch of times. It wasn't until I saw you do that and you use the phrase that it evenly distributes the weight so that it's not creating this, what'd you say, like a bridge effect and putting all the weight in the front, putting all the weight in the back. Is that how you were wording it?
Yeah, it can be a bridge effect, but just remember, where you really want the bars to fit is right, setting properly, is actually right where you sit. Because if the bar is touching the front of the animal, the front of the bar, if it's touching, you're inhibiting the scapula, and you're restricting the muscle movement behind the scapula. So we don't want it sitting there. Yeah, sure. I've got 21-inch bar, but in all essence, right around 12 inches, depending on the size of the tree, 12 to 14 inches, is all that's sitting on the animal's back. Because of, there again, understanding, folks, when you're riding a mule, you're riding a lateral moving animal. And those scapulas go up and down like this. And watch it behind that scapula. Watch your mule walk. You'll see it on the video. We've got that on YouTube. But when you restrict that and you tighten that front cinch, oh my goodness, you're restricting it. You know, Dave, this saddle thing is the biggest questions I have, constant questions, you know. I love it when people send me pictures and say, you know, how does it look? I've got people that have crippled their animals listening to these guys that are supposed to be saddle fitters. This last guy, the back of this mule's back was swelled up. It looked like a grapefruit back there. And the guy told him, a saddle fitter, said, your saddle fit's fine. He says, Steve, why is my mule swelled up back there? And it's right in the back, right where the cantle is, right where you would put your quote saddlebags or your pummel bag. It's right there in that area. There's 3 bones that stick up. And you'll see the back of these saddles when they're stitched across and the skirting is together, it rubs across there. I don't care how many pads you put on. I don't care how many holes you cut out. That saddle is still going to put pressure there. Anyway, long story short, he's going to have to rest his animal. He's from Florida. And I said, where's your breeching? He said, I'm on flat ground. I said, no. When it comes to mules, you've got to ride on flat ground or not. Put a breeching on. Otherwise, you're going to have what you got here. You need to have your mule rest at least 8 months. You're going to need to make sure he gets the proper medication to help that swelling get down, because otherwise it's going to develop a fistula. Again, Dave, we are not meant to ride these animals' backs. But since we are riding them, we need to do the proper things to keep them happy and safe.
Yeah, the saddles that is probably the top question, the top topic that people want to know about. I know at the clinics, that's the thing that people want to spend a lot of time on is the saddles. And of course you say, hey, we're going to get to the questions about the saddles. We're going to get there. There's some things that we want to talk about first, just to give everybody, you know, an illustration of how important this is. On YouTube, we've got a video called Mule Saddle versus Horse Saddle, 7,500 views. We've got just a demonstration of the Trail Lite saddle, 31,000 views. We've got one that's how to select the right size mule saddle and properly ride Western style, 2,100 views. What's wrong with my saddle, 13,000 views. How to get into the saddle, 7,400 views. The Cowboy saddle, 15,000. Can your saddle do this? And this is a big gentleman getting on his mule and like shaking back and forth, and it stays in place. That's got 732. We've got Pack Saddle. That one we just uploaded this year, 482. Saddle bars for mules, 9,300. It's a hot topic, and folks want to know about it. And people, I put the link to Steve's YouTube page in the comment section so you can check it out. Yeah, Steve.
Well, I just moved my arms, but I get frustrated at saddle makers who are excellent at making saddles, but they don't understand the mule. And you'll see it just in the billets alone. The billets, the long straps that hang down the back, you don't use billets on a mule. That back cinch is the most important one. And when you hear people say, I had a custom-made mule saddle and I'm having problems, send me a picture and here's a billet hanging. You know, people are building these saddles for horses. They're not building them for the movement of that mule, you know, so... What other questions have we got there, Dave?
Well, I was just going to say, before we move on, the big thing that we can do, not you and me, but all of us here, there's 12 folks watching live right now, and these videos, they get anywhere between 500 and 4,500 views. So all of us who are watching right now, it's our responsibility to make sure that folks understand the differences between the structure of a mule and donkey and a horse, and make sure to inform people, make sure to inform our friends, make sure to inform our family members, our colleagues who have mules, who have donkeys. Not to be a know-it-all, but just to say, hey, I've heard some things that really make a lot of sense about mules and donkeys. Can I send you a video? Can I show you what I'm talking about? And that's our responsibility. And the thing is the more that we find one another's, the more this community grows and the more people actually get to understanding what these differences are. And the more enjoyable it is for the animal and the more enjoyable it is for the rider. So the next question that we've got here is, let's see, Lakin Lite. So it seems like feed is something that comes up every single time. This one actually came in from one of our videos about a month ago, 6 weeks actually. Someone watched it a couple days ago saying, can you tell me more about the Lakin Lite feed? Of course, I've got a video to send them. But the follow-up question is, can you tell me if it's a standalone feed or do you also need to feed hay? Do you only feed Lakin Lite? Can you give me a roundabout to feed a 6-year-old mule in great condition, 15 hands? Thanks so much.
Okay. The Lakin Lite is all you need. Some people go ahead and feed some Bermuda hay with it, but I can tell you that my wife's mule, for out of her 26 years, her main diet was nothing but Lakin Lite pellets, period. You feed according to your need. So if you are going to ride heavy over Saturday and Sunday, come Thursday, add another 2 to 3 pounds of feed in there. That's the great thing about pellets, is you can safely weigh your feed and know exactly what you're getting for feed. So, just because it's 15 hands, I need to know, okay, how many hours a week he's been ridden and this sort of thing, how legged up is he? And so what you don't want to do, though, is overfeed them. Not only will you give them toxicity problems with the sugar content in feed and feed that fat pockets, but you can also have what's called Monday morning sickness. And that's where the farmers used to feed them really heavy over the weekend when they didn't use them. And then come Monday, they had all that heavy feed on them, and their kidneys end up kicking back, and they get acidaria. And that is the same thing you get from pack bags, and from saddlebags. And when you get that, you end up with acidaria, and that's where the kidneys end up can't take care of the toxicities, and the mule ends up dying. So going back to it, yes, Lakin Lite only, but only feed according to the mule's needs. Only.
Awesome. So if you want more information on nutrition program and what that ought to look like and more on this specific topic, I just put in the comment section, I put a link to a video that is 100% focused on setting a nutrition program for your mule. And it's going to cover just about every single question that you could ask about general information for a nutrition program. So be sure to get that. It's an absolutely free video. You just type in your email address, and Steve sends you a link to the video. It's on YouTube, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So that's a little bit more information about nutrition, which is hugely important. The next question that comes in, and actually before I get to it, I want to say that BP Resolute chimed in and says, hello, Holly and I are following, and asked the question, hey, Steve, any word on new pack boxes?
That is a problem. I designed these pack boxes almost 30 years ago. Actually, I was a helper with Abe Hewitt Custom Pack Rigging. And the problem is these are made in Canada. And so the shipping down from Canada down to here is extraordinary, almost $225. Again, I got to go back to Eric. Eric, with that mountain gear, he is taking the pack business by storm with his awesome equipment. I've been helping him design some of this stuff, but he's designed this stuff for donkeys. But I'm telling him he needs to start setting it up for the mules and for the horses. So let me answer the question. Basically, we got pack bags that we take and put plastic inserts in, and then that takes care of the need without a lot of expense. I do have a company that I'm looking at that makes pack boxes, but they are almost $400 for the boxes, but they are bear proof, and that's nice. But the great thing about these plastic containers is understand that when it's plastic, that's a hard shell. So all your hard things are going to go into that box. And that means your Dutch ovens, your cooking utensils, things like that. Anything that's hard is going to go in your hard boxes. So you've got your bags, you put the insert down in them, you put all your hard things in there. Now, when it's just the bag only, your soft things. So your clothes, your sleeping gear, your tents, things like that are all going to go in the soft panniers. Your hard boxes are all your hard things. So that's a good general way to look at it.
Awesome. So I just put another link in there. I tagged BP to be able to check out Mountain Ridge Gear website, and you can see everything there. It's really, really good stuff. So if anybody has any continuing questions, go ahead and put them. I have 3 left here. So if anybody else has questions, use the comment section. The next question is from Bill on Facebook. He says, my mule steps away from me when I try to mount. What suggestions do you have for me?
Okay, so the mule's trying to tell you something, Bill. And usually they try to tell you, hey, I've got a problem here. So what I would do, number 1, go get the teeth floated. Go get them balanced. That's number 1. That's the best thing you can do for your mules and your horses and your donkeys. But he's trying to tell you, I got a problem. So what's the second thing? Go down and get a chiropractor and look at his back. See if the hip or the shoulder or the ribs or maybe the vertebrae are out of place. He's trying to tell you that I've got a problem. So next thing, your saddle. If you want to send me a picture of your saddle sitting on your mule. This is probably about the 10th one in the past 8 or 9 days, Dave, where the people says the mule is moving when he's starting to climb on. When they send me a picture of it, they've got the saddle sitting on top of the scapula. They've only got one cinch, and they've created a problem. And some of these people have said, I've been riding this mule for 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden, no, folks, it's coming. The day is coming where you're going to have this problem, and you're lucky the mule is just stepping away. You're lucky he doesn't jump ahead and kick you. You're lucky he doesn't buck you off. You're lucky he doesn't turn to bite you. All these things are coming, folks. Everybody says, oh, my mule is doing so well. No. The day of reckoning is coming. I've got 4 decades, tells you, 32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips. I've already been there. Go get your mule's teeth floated. Go get that back checked out with your good chiropractor and see what the problem is. And then next, send me a picture of your saddle.
Great. So can you talk a little bit more about the importance, the connection of floating the teeth? First off, explain what floating the teeth is, what that means, and then the connection between all of this other stuff. Because honestly, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't see the connection with why would something in the mouth have to do with me not being able to mount my mules. So can you just discuss that a little bit?
Okay, you bet. All right, we have the upper jaw, we have the lower jaw. When the mule drops his head, the lower jaw comes forward. And I'm overemphasizing, but it comes forward. And when it comes forward, it relaxes the animal, and then he's able to break at the pole through the vertebrae and drop his head. If the TMJs, which are the back teeth, if they are hanging up from not only improper floating, it needs to be stressed that the very first thing you do is balance the teeth. After that, floating is only this. Here's the point sticking up. You file them down until they're all smooth, and then the mule is happy. Mules' teeth erupt every day. They are constantly growing. And when the mule drops his head and that lower shelf comes forward and hangs up, that makes him uncomfortable. That's when he's going to back up. remember that everything connects into that jaw going on back. So teeth floated first, get the chiropractic work done next. And it's imperative you float the teeth every single year. Don't listen to some of these vets, folks. As much as I enjoy a lot of these vets, they don't understand these mules. Here's a simple thing for you to do. Hold the lower part of your jaw, the upper part of your jaw. Move them back and forth, back and forth. And as you do that, you will hear grinding, and if you hold it correctly, you'll even feel it catch. If you feel it catch, he's got to have his teeth floated. And I can't tell you how many times I've had John Holt, which is an extraordinary dentist out of Idaho, who has come to my clinics, and people have said, I just had the teeth floated. And they weren't floated right. They were incorrect. And when he put a spectrum in there and put the mouth open, you could put your hand in there and feel all the sharp places. They just spent $200 to have it done, and it wasn't done correctly. A veterinarian, okay? So, folks, it's imperative. Get it done right. Now, here's the next thing. Here's the eye. Right in behind the eye, about an inch from it, the corner of the eye. So you got your finger, let's just say this is the left side, the near side. You put your finger right in behind the eye and push on it. You look in the top above the eye, there's that socket. When you push on that and it bubbles up, if it bubbles up a lot, you've got a TMJ hanging out. If you move it back and forth, as you're moving it back and forth, you've got problems with the teeth hanging up. There we are.
So if I understand you correctly, going back to what teeth floating is if you've got teeth right here, floating is simply just leveling them off so they don't get caught.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense because what we talked about last week was that mules show their discomfort in a lot of different ways than we would be accustomed to saying, oh, it looks like he's uncomfortable. They show it differently. So what you're saying is, look, because of the way that the structure of the mule is, when he puts his head down, that jaw moves, which causes pain if the teeth aren't floated, which makes him back up to try to relieve that pain, which all makes sense in the language of the mule, comfortable, uncomfortable.
Right. And when they elevate their head, just a minute.
Yeah. Happens to the best of us.
There we are. When they elevate their head to get away from the TMJs hanging up, it hollows out their back. So now their back is hollowed out, and that's when they go, ow, and we're thinking, that that they're just being bad. I'll give you a good one. Yeah. I had a client call me from Tucson. She says, Steve, I was riding along, and all of a sudden my mule just laid down. And I what's going on, And the other lady said, beat on that mule. Tell him to get up. He's not being submissive. And I said, and he's just trying to roll in the sand. And I said, was your mule sweaty? No. Was it hot that day? No. Then why would he have a reason to do that? I said, send me a picture of the saddle. There we go. Mm-hmm. Saddle sitting on top of the scapula. No breeching. And I said, where's your breeching? She says, well, I'm just riding a little flat ground. I said, no, ma'am. Your mule is trying to tell you, and he's probably been telling you in other ways. She says, well, Steve, I had your saddle, but I decided to go ahead and let my son use it. And I'm going to, I said, ma'am, you can't do that. Your mule is being very nice to you. Laying down is one of the nicer things they can do for you, Dave, they got a lot of ways to tell you, I'm in pain, And Dave, here's something simple. All they have to do is see when they got on that mule where his head is. Mm-hmm. And when they go to get on the mule, if he elevates his head, he's saying, hey, I got a problem here. All he's got to do is elevate his head. The TMJ probably hung up a little bit, so he brought it up, and then he hollowed out his back more. Look at the head. When they elevate their head, that's the beginnings of saying, hey, listen to me.
That's actually a really good point. I haven't heard you say that before, but I'm definitely going to turn that into into some video so folks can get it. We're getting close to the end here, folks. If you do have questions, feel free to share them. I've got two left. Second to last one is, and this one came in, and you said, I don't know, why she would mention that, and so I figured we'd talk about it a little bit more here. Yolanda from Facebook, she's in the Netherlands. She's been super sweet. We've had some great conversation back and forth. She said, "Hey, will your saddle fit a Spanish Molly mule?" And I said, well, I know that Steve's saddles fit all mules, but I haven't heard of a Spanish Molly mule, so I better ask just in case there's something unique or different there. So tell me a little bit about what maybe the concern is here, maybe what that is. I really don't know how to respond.
Well, there are some purebreds of different type of horses that are, quote, from the Spanish side. We can look at simple things like the Peruvian or the Peruvian Paso, but I would have to ask them, tell me about the parents. What makes this a Spanish mule? Just like wild horses, they say it's a wild horse. We don't have very many wild horses other than the tiger. And people don't realize what's a tiger. It's actually a horse. And it's actually a wild horse. And it's actually the original wild horses with a longer head. But that's a whole other thing. I would like her to tell me who the parents are so that I understand where she's coming from. A lot of people will say, I've got this wild horse, when in all essence it wasn't really wild. Or I've got a dated horse, when in all essence it's just a fast walking horse. So I think I need to know what the parents are, and we can go from there. But here's the thing. If his daddy is a donkey, he's a mule, and my saddle fits bone structure, not muscle mass. And I'd be happy to come over to the Netherlands with the saddle, yeah.
Hint, 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 hint.
Hint, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Stuff show. We've got folks that contact you from all over the world. On Facebook, not Facebook, Instagram in particular. There's been a lot of folks from just all over the globe who have started to follow the Instagram feed and who, quite frankly, have been awesome at sharing photos for Steve and I to post on Instagram of their mule from everywhere. So that's been pretty cool. Hearing the Netherlands come in, France, Sweden, Australia, Canada. I think we had some South America. Iraqi came in, an Iraqi follower, and it's been pretty cool to see all of the mule and donkey folks coming together. Let's see here. The last question that I have, and we'll see if anybody else has anything that they chime in on, is signs of your cinch being too tight. And where this comes from is we posted a picture on Facebook. Steve, you'll know what I'm talking about. This picture of white hairs and cinches being too tight and scalding and things of that nature. And we had John on Facebook say, "Hey, are the signs of this scalding, cinches being too tight, are they the same on a horse as they are on a mule? Do I look for the same thing?" So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You've got an equine. You've got hair follicles. White hairs are from a scald, folks. They're from us overheating our animal. Look, when you take a break with your horse or your mule or your donkey. Loosen up your cinches, raise up the back of your saddle, shake it up and down, let some cool air go through there, even with my saddle pad. Let me ask you something. If you got a wool pad on and it's during the summertime, do you wear wool during the summertime? Answer, no. You wear wool to be warm. If you've ever been in a wetsuit, a rubber wetsuit, you know not only are you wet when you come out of that suit, but you're also warm and you've been in a cold water. So I have people all the time saying, "Oh, that rubber, will scald them." No, it don't. It absolutely don't. If it's done properly, that will work good. But yes, on a horse, you've got hair follicles, and notice on your horses, folks, the white spots is almost identical, the same place as it on a mule. Okay. That's because they only tighten the front cinch and there's no back cinch. The front cinch on a horse must be tight. Back cinch on a horse must be snug, because otherwise the saddle cantilevers, and where does the pressure go? Right here's the 6th and 7th rib on a horse, runs horizontal, but right in behind that area, when you tighten that front cinch, it restricts that muscle and tendon area, period.
So Kevin has a follow-up question. He says, can the cinch be too long as it isn't hitting the pad?
Yes, that's too long. That's way too long. The cinch, it makes no difference where your D-rings are. As long as the cinch comes up and is just about with the rib cage. So I'm going to tell you, 12 to 14 inches is a pretty good length from D-ring to D-ring. Some cinches have D-rings that go right against the animal, and that's okay as long as it's tightened correctly. My cinches are made with a padding so that the D-ring don't touch. But I've had people, as a matter of fact, I'm going to see a friend of mine up in Wyoming next month when I'll be up in Gillette, Wyoming, and he's got a mule. He says, Steve, look what your saddle done. It's got this white spot. No, it's the D-ring. And the D-ring rubbed on the fat pocket of that mule. I remember the mule well when I was there. And it's that high spot of fat pocket. We can't take that away, okay? That high spot is there, and when that D-ring rubs on it, we kill the hair follicles, and we get the white spots. White spots are from a scald.
There we go. And now you know. And I was a big G.I. Joe fan when I was growing up, and Snake Eyes always said it, knowing is half the battle. So now you know, knowing's half the battle. Sharon Denenis says, thanks, Steve, for this program. I love listening and learning each week. Sharon, we're glad that you're here. Thanks for spending time with us. That's all the questions I have. I want to tell folks there's some things coming up that we're going to be releasing on muleranch.com. We've got a few things. We've got a short excerpt from a previous live stream, feed and nutrition program for mule foals. So that's going to be coming out on muleranch.com. Horse trainers training a mule is going to be coming out on muleranch.com. Getting your mule to trust you and catching them in pasture. We had someone saying, hey, how do I get my mule? He's out in pasture. How do I catch him? You show me catching him in a pen. How do I catch him out in pasture? So we've got an article coming out on that. Steve wrote an article, Training a Mule, Don't Create an Ass from Hell. That one's coming out in Mules and More magazine in the coming months. And then after it runs there, we'll put it out on Steve's website. We've got trailer loading, how to successfully load your mule or donkey. That's not what you think it is, so that's going to be a good read. And then when to use a come-along rope and when to use the rope halter. Steve put together a little combo pack with come-along rope, rope halter, and the DVD Problem Mule Building a New Foundation. And one of the questions I had is, okay, you're putting in a come-along rope, you're putting in a rope halter. When do I use one over the other? And so we've got another post coming out on muleranch.com to talk about that. So that's everything that I have. Steve, thanks so much for hanging out. Hopefully we'll see some folks this Saturday and Sunday at Trail Riding with Confidence. If you can't make it out this time, but you want to come a future time, just make sure you go to muleranch.com/events. You'll see Steve's entire calendar. You'll see clinics coming up on the ranch, clinics coming up all over the country. And yeah, any final words, Steve?
Well, we're going to have something unique this weekend. We're going to have a horse there. This is a friend's horse. They want me to sell it. I've got a rancher that's looking for one. So we're going to have the horse there. We're going to see my bars on the horse's back, and we're going to see the horse bars on the horse's back. And folks, it's going to be an eye-opener, okay? You're going to see the horse, and you're going to see the tree, and you're going to see the difference. And when Dave, I'm sure, is going to video this, it is going to blow YouTube away, all right? Now, that's one thing. The other thing is Dave knows, and I hope you folks get this idea. I want to get this information out, okay? We're doing whatever we can. Look at all the free stuff out there. It's not about me selling a rope or a saddle or whatever. If I can get some of you to start learning how to do some of these things and you pass it on to somebody else, that's why I'm here, all right? I from some old guys. It cost me 32 broken bones and 2 replaced hips to learn a hard way. I'm going to try to show you the easy ways. You can take the 4 decades, okay, of my experience or not, and go from there. Yeah. So there you are. And we got a couple books coming out. One's Mules I Shouldn't Have Rode, and the other one is 4 Decades of Breaking Mule Myths. And we're not going to be too long with these folks. So keep checking in. These books are going to be awesome. Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's that idea of and you've got some folks who have really done well. I know Eric Lynn and Eric Palmer both hop on and communicate with you regularly, and they've done exactly what it is we're talking about here. Taking what they're learning from you, and they're taking it, they're running with it, they're expanding upon it. And I know that's what brings. I know that brings you a lot of joy. I know it brings them a lot of joy, and ultimately, it brings the Father a lot of joy. Seeing us live in our gifting, seeing us live in the way He created us, seeing His children out there, being kind to one another, caring for one another, and caring for His creation, which is ultimately what we're doing here. Is we are stewards of the creation that He's given us, and I know that you feel that way. I feel that way. And that's ultimately what we're going after. So, Steve, thank you so much. Michelle Spears says, I have a wonderful mule and I do not have a round pen. What are your thoughts on using your groundwork exercises in an open field? Michelle, I will add that to next week. We've got it in this one, but I wanted you to see that I saw your question. I will add it to next week, and I promise you we will get that answered. Carla Howe, thanks for saying you enjoyed. Appreciate having you here. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.